We each have our own moment where time and space open, where suddenly there's a vast, empty unknown, and it's a chance to dive in, to find out what's the truth, what's the bottom line, who am I finally, what am I, and then to stay true. That's set and setting. So I'd like to start with my teacher's teacher, Ramana Maharshi. This man is acknowledged by the world as one of the great saints. And his transmission was silence and the realization that you already are the self you're searching for. And he had no practice. He had no rituals. Simply, he transmitted silence from the nature of the silence of his being. But I'd like to go back to set and setting. How did this happen? He's on his couch here in an ashram that was built for him by his devotees, and he never left his couch. And his couch was in full view of a hall. It was at the front of a hall. And at any time, anyone could walk into the hall, and he'd be there on his couch, sitting silently. He started as a young boy, I forget, 16 years old, I think. And his father died. This broke up the family. They were poor Indians. So his mother went to live with an aunt, and he and his brother went to live with an uncle. This was traumatic. Father suddenly dies, family's broken up. So that's the setting. But the way he came to it, was he was not particularly interested in school, but he did a normal thing that you would do, a normal high school student. But he loved reading, and he loved reading about the Tamil saints. His love for the Tamil saints was something that really called him. But when his father died, and the family's broken up, this is trauma. And the way he addresses it is by going inside to find out who dies. He lay down on the floor, held his breath, went inside to find out who dies. And he woke up. And he realized, I am the deathless spirit. So that was the set and setting. Trauma, and out of this trauma, the intention to be like a Tamil saint and to inquire inside to find the truth leads to an awakening. Next is integration. So how does integration happen here? He continues going to school, continues his normal day-to-day life, but he drops into samadhi instead of doing his homework. He sits for hours in bliss instead of participating. And his brother, because they're both sent to live with the uncle, said, if you're going to act like a swami, what are you doing here eating these people's food? Go to school. Do what you have to do. Follow your obligations to your family. And this is what challenged him, and he realized, you're right. That's the truth. I shouldn't be here. And he ran away from home. He stole his brother's lunch money. And he wrote a little note, I've taken the 3 rupees that was meant for my brother's tuition. I've taken it. And I've gone to find my father. Please don't spend any time or energy looking for me. And he ran away. And he got to his holy mountain, his incarnation of God. And when he got there, he goes into bliss. He sits silently. And he goes through trials. He goes through being taunted. He goes through not eating. He goes through being attacked. But he stays quiet. And he wakes up. And he realizes himself more deeply. And he stays in silence for years. Literally, actually for years. His mother, meanwhile, is frantic. Where's my boy? How do I get him? And she hears from another distant relative that there's this Brahma Swami living as a renunciate at the temple, and he's a 16-year-old kid, and he's yours. And so she comes to find him, to bring him back home. So, okay, come, you want to meditate? Come home, you can meditate. And he doesn't speak to her. And she sits in front of him and begs him and cries for him to come home. And this goes on for a couple days. And then he writes a note to her. And this note is his first teaching. It says, whatever will be, no matter what you try to do to avoid it. And whatever won't be, no matter what you try to do to create it. Better to just be still. She surrenders and eventually becomes his devotee. She leaves her family, leaves everything to live with him and cook for the devotees. So this is set and setting. If this happened in our country today, it would never be possible. Child services would intervene very early. He'd be sent to therapy for his trauma. He'd be sent for welfare for his housing. And that opportunity is probably not there anymore. That was his moment, and he took it. But what we each have our own moment. Our own moment where time and space open. Where suddenly there's a vast, empty unknown. And it's a chance to dive in. To find out. What's the truth? What's the bottom line? Who am I finally? What am I? And then to stay true. That's set and setting. And so he had to leave his old life. He couldn't integrate back in. And a lot of therapeutic work is to integrate people back into society. And I understand that. You need to survive. But society itself is sick. It's not healthy. It's based in profit. It's not based in humanity. It's based in making money. And so sometimes you can't be integrated back in. Sometimes you just have to walk away, as he did. And nobody can tell you what to do, or what you should do or shouldn't do. But when you stay true to yourself, as this 16-year-old boy did, he stayed true to himself. He realized himself. And in realizing himself, without wanting to, he became a gift for the world. His transmission of silence is still alive today.